This is Miss Vibber Johnson, and today we're going to be talking about John Locke. John Locke is a political philosopher from the 1600s who lived in England under the King and Queen of England, or the King of England, and he is going to be thinking and talking about government and coming up with ideas about the best types of government. He doesn't really think that a monarchy is a very good government. Okay, so John Locke believed that most people were good and could be trusted. He believed that we were all born with certain rights, and he categorized our rights into life, liberty, and property. And today we're going to define exactly what life, liberty, and property mean. John Locke believed that government is necessary to protect natural rights, and he believed that it was necessary to prevent a state of nature, and we will define state of nature also in this video. So what are our natural rights? According to John Locke, these are the rights that most people have just because they're human. And these are rights that you and I, as Americans, take for granted very often. And the reason we take these rights for granted is because they are naturally protected by our government. And many of these rights are rights that we've had since birth, so we don't even realize that other people in the world don't have these same rights. Let's categorize them. Life. What are some of your rights to life? Your right to safe food, your right to health care, your right to safety, to education, to protection. Your right to know when you go to Big Y the food you buy is safe to eat. Your right to know that as you travel around town that there are police and fire and ambulance and hospitals around to help us. Your right to be able to go to the doctor. Right? Your right to, believe it or not, come here and have a public education. These are all your rights to life that in other countries you're not necessarily guaranteed. You're not necessarily guaranteed safe food in other countries or health care. You're not necessarily guaranteed the right to an education in many countries. Your right to liberty. These are the rights that are in many ways most important and the rights that we often just simply take for granted. Speech, press, religion. Your rights to have the friends you want, to go on the holidays or vacations that you choose, the clothes you wear, the music you listen to, the video games you play, the clubs, the teams that you want to be parts of, the type of entertainment, the books, the movies that you listen to and watch, everything you did this summer. You are expressing your liberty. And in many countries, these things are limited. In North Korea, for example, you can't just look anything you want up on Google. The government limits what comes through. You can't just read any book you want. You can't play any video game you choose. You can't watch any movie that you want to watch. The government dictates to the citizens in Korea, North Korea, what they can and can't view. And in that way, the government controls the people. You can't just join any club or play any sport you want to in North Korea without the government approval. These are all things that are in other countries controlled, whereas you and I have these as natural liberties. Your right to buy, to own, to sell, to trade, to rent, to share, property. Your right to privacy. Okay. We have so many liberties with our property and things that we can do with our property that in other countries people just don't have those rights. In some countries you don't have the right to own land. You don't have the right to own a house or own the things within your home. Government owns everything. And by that I mean the people who are in power in the government in those other countries. So what's a state of nature? According to John Locke, a state of nature is a situation where rules and laws of government stop working and people's rights become violated. It's either a situation where there are no rules and laws because government isn't in place, or a situation where government has failed to protect people's rights because the rules and laws have stopped working. Sometimes, even in good government, unforeseen events can happen that will erupt into a state of nature. But when this happens in a good government, usually the government takes actions to try to prevent that from happening again. And we're going to look at some examples. Here are 4 pictures of various states of nature that sometimes even happen in our country here in America, and where we as Americans have tried to make rules to stop these things from happening. So here's an example of a boy being bullied in school. Maybe a little 7th grader being bullied by all those big 8th graders. Maybe they're laughing at him because he's a small kid or he's a 7th grader, or because he has an ET lunchbox, not very popular. His right to life is being violated. Food being taken, lunch being taken, being scared, maybe not wanting to come to school. His right to education, books are all over the place. His right to privacy, property. What does he have in those notebooks that they're taking from him? His right to liberty, to be able to bring the ET lunchbox to school and feel safe. Right. Now, this is a state of nature because rules and laws stopped working. There's no teacher, there's no adult around to prevent these rules and laws from being enforced. What does the school do in this type of situation? Well, we have consequences for bullies, and we try to make new rules and laws or do different things within our school system to prevent this type of thing from happening. Another example of a state of nature. A tornado comes through. Bad tornado. Rips up the town. Obviously would cause a state of nature, a situation where rules and laws stop working. What do we do to try to stop states of nature from happening in a situation that's weather related? Well, from this August, news alerts come over the radio, over the TV, over our cell phones. The government tells the weather people to tell us, the news people to tell us, stay inside, go downstairs. We always get early warnings about weather, and those early warning weather reports are supposed to try to allow us to be prepared and prevent a state of nature from happening. Riots, sometimes they happen. Concerts, if there's a fire or if something unexpected happens, sometimes riots take place. And we have rules and laws to try to prevent riots and things that happen to try to stop riots once they occur. And hopefully we can keep the number of riots down in our society. 9/11 was an example of a state of nature. At that particular moment in time, there was chaos in New York. Rights to life, liberty, and property were violated. What did good government do? Well, after 9/11, we tried to make rules and laws to prevent something like 9/11 from happening again. That's why when you go to the airport, there's all kinds of new things that we have to follow, new protocols and rules and laws to try to prevent something from like 9/11 from happening again. John Locke said that the primary purpose of government was to promote the common good or the common welfare. That means making everybody safe while protecting the natural rights of you and I as individuals. So there's a balancing act between doing what's good for everybody and also protecting individuals. So government is really what he called a social contract, where members of society agree to give up certain rights for the protection of others. Here's an example. There's a bridge somewhere on a town by the ocean, probably, or a lake, and the sign says no bare feet allowed. The town put that sign up. It's a town law. Now, when you and I go walk on this bridge, we have the right, maybe we think we do, to go barefoot, but we're going to follow the rules and give up our right to go barefoot and keep shoes on our feet so that we don't get splinters, so that we don't knock people into the water, so that bad things don't happen. Obviously, they've had some problems in this town with people going barefoot on the dock. So there's a sign that says, for the safety, for the better of the common, for you and I as a whole, let's everybody wear our shoes. We're all going to give up our right to go barefoot, and we're all going to wear shoes for the protection of everybody. So most rules and laws, even some that sometimes seem silly or annoying to you and I, are made by the government for the better or the common good of everybody in a society. Everybody's going to wear shoes on this bridge so that nobody then gets inflicted or hurt by going barefoot. In conclusion, then, we all have basic rights that most of us in America take for granted. These are known as life, liberty, and property. We can categorize them and give specific examples of our rights to life, our rights to liberty, and our right to property. The purpose of government is to protect our individual rights to life, liberty, and property, to prevent a state of nature, but also to make sure that as a whole we are all happy. And so in a social contract, you and I agree to give up certain rights for the protection of others. We agree to kind of follow the rules and laws that you and I create as a society in order for us all to be happy and healthy.